Hello, everyone. I'm Colin Tessier of WrestleZone.com, and I'm joined by John Clark to talk about Monday Night Raw. John, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm glad to be back. Last week, we had a bunch of schedule changes, so it was a different week in many ways, but we are back on schedule here, and that feels very good. John, last week I was in a pretty good mood because I watched Raw on Hulu. It was a beautiful 90-minute experience. This week we were back with the 3 hours, but you can't knock a show just because of that. I will say I think the consensus already seems to be this show was a bit of a step back after last week. Seemed to be a pretty good show, at least in terms of Raw standards. But we should let's not bury the lead here. Let's just go with the main event here. Drew McIntyre qualified for Money in the Bank. So he will be yet again at least fighting for a WWE or a world title shot at Money in the Bank in the namesake ladder match. He defeated AJ Styles and Riddle in the main event in a triple threat match, and we can talk about how that happened. But overall here, John, I imagine, based on what we've said in the past, you're probably not all too thrilled with Drew McIntyre being still in the title picture. Am I off base there?
You are correct. I am not happy with how that ended. And let me explain why. There's a few reasons. First, of course, the way the show started, we saw kind of some new faces here with because it was a surprise that Randy Orton wasn't going to be a part of the show. I don't think that was advertised beforehand, was it?
I don't think so. I think that was
Okay,
a new
so
development.
so we get to the show and we get this opening segment where it's like, okay, there's going to be a battle royal where somebody's going to have a chance to make it into the match. And I see Jeff Hardy and I see Damian Priest and I see Jinder Mahal. I see all these guys in the ring. And I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, great. Somebody's going to get the opportunity because I immediately thought that whoever's going to get their opportunity is going to win and make it into Money in the Bank.
Right.
So we're going and we're going and we're going, and all of a sudden Riddle, and I'm like, okay, great. Riddle's in this match. He's clearly going to win. So indeed, Riddle wins the match, and then we get this thing where he's acting like Randy Orton, which that's good and everything. But then Drew wins the match, and that was a surprise to me because I'm thinking, okay, well, we have these announcements and this thing where the roster was like, it would be a shame if he gets taken out. So I'm thinking, well, maybe Sheamus takes him out and it kind of starts that thing. But getting back to the match itself, great match. I just don't like Drew winning. I don't like it.
Yeah, to me, it's very weird that I don't know, man. Like for me, I like when things have logic to be obvious, and this show felt. I saw someone I think on Twitter say it. It felt like the Matt Riddle show where in the beginning, Matt Riddle comes out, says Randy Orton's not there, and he gets the spot in the Battle Royale. And then, John, as you said last week, we had that kind of, or I think that was last week. Last week we had Jinder Mahal, Sheamus. Other people say that they were gonna, or at least Jinder made it clear he was gonna take somebody out, and that made you think that something like that would happen. But then tonight we had Riddle there, and beyond from the Battle Royale, he had a good run there, and obviously made a case where he wanted to fight for Randy. And then to me, it makes sense where you have Riddle already having qualified. At first, so I was a little confused because like Riddle already qualified. Like, what's the point? But for me, it was weird where like even though Riddle qualified, it would be cool to have both guys in RK Bro in the in the Money in the Bank match to whether it's to kind of have them work together or to have that be tension for their team. That definitely is something. So and then Riddle lost. He put on this great match. He looked great in that match in the main event there. And then I didn't really see AJ Styles winning. And unfortunately, Drew McIntyre winning was pretty obvious in some ways. But I thought, maybe Riddle will win, even though it'd be kind of weird to have Randy in there having not qualified. But Drew pinned him. And to me, that hurt Riddle because he looked great. But then McIntyre pins him. So I don't want to say, like, what's the point? But what's the point? Like, now Drew is qualified. And I will say, to defend it, or at least to I guess play devil's advocate, this helps RK Bro if they don't want to run with them as a tag team, or at least not, or to, you know, I don't know. I guess for me, this will definitely be a test because Randy Orton could very well be upset that Riddle, quote unquote, failed him. You know, to me that's feels like the direction we're going here.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting to see the fact that they kind of like pushed him as the show went on, but then like at the end, it was kind of like the big payoff just wasn't there for him, which to me makes me believe there is something more to this. We're clearly going to get and what's interesting to me is the fact that like why wasn't Randy Orton there tonight is interesting to me because like I said it wasn't advertised or anything like that, but there was very good action in ring matches tonight on the show, and I definitely appreciate that they're putting out a better product. You mentioned at the beginning of the show that a lot of people thought that the show was a step back from last week. I wouldn't necessarily say that that was the case. I mean, if we're looking at the past month or two, this was clearly one of the best as far as just everything goes. And I think it's important to note that just because Riddle didn't get that push and that win, that's not the end of it because there's clearly a payoff that will be coming here. Now, Drew being in the Money in the Bank match, whatever, that's fine. Oh God, please! I was gonna say there's no way he wins. Please let that be true, because like I can just see it now. He wins. The crowd just absolutely hates it in the live arena and just craps on it. But um, I think it's okay. I mean, he's certainly deserved it. He's carried the whole company the past year and a half. So I mean, give him a spot in the main event of the first pay per view back with fans. I mean, you don't expect him to win, do you?
Well, we should talk about that because at this point, the field is becoming a little clear. Now we have Drew McIntyre. Last week we saw Johnny Drip Drip or John Morrison, Ricochet, and Riddle, of course, qualify. And now so you have Drew McIntyre over on SmackDown. We know that Big E has already qualified. And then this Friday, we will see at the very least Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn qualify when they face off. I thought it last week once Riddle qualified and then even when Big E qualified. I think those two are my not favorites because like I don't necessarily want to see Riddle win, but I'll explain that. I think the best options at this point could be Riddle or Big E. And I thought tonight I came around. Tonight I came around in terms of Riddle as a contender because John, you and I have talked about it. This is a guy that I've said many times in the past. I don't like his character. He annoys me. This, that, other thing. But you can't deny week after week he's put on great matches. So you know, I gotta say he's been doing really good work. He looked great tonight. He's been doing good stuff with Money in the Bank here, or sorry, with RK Bro here. So, and give with good performances like this, I don't know. Maybe it feels like they are going in that direction. Like they obviously have been building it up for a while. They've been doing an actually pretty good job of it. So you know, at least with the guys in the match so far, he feels like a good option. Now for me, I want to see Big E win. I've been hoping to see that for a long time now. I was hoping he'd win the Royal Rumble, and that didn't happen. And I was hoping that he would be in a position where he could be built up as a big threat for Roman Reigns for SummerSlam. I don't even know if that's gonna happen at this point, but I think the potential is still there. So I have to wonder, you know, I don't know. I think that's an option, but Riddle feels like the best option at this point.
So what I think it's interesting to note is that there's a comment here from Stephen Chambers, and he says, "If Drew wins Money in the Bank, is this really the best Raw can come up with? I thought Drew can't wrestle Lashley anymore. He can't, but there's an interesting loophole if he's Money in the Bank holder. Obviously, I don't think we'll get to that point. At least I hope not. But the fact that there's I won't hide my dismay. I do not want Big E to win this match. I really don't. That to me, this screams Otis all over again. You have Money in the Bank, you become irrelevant, and you somehow lose it. Uh, Although, interestingly enough, John Morrison and Ricochet have interesting cases to be made, especially after their match tonight. Speaking of which, let's talk about that now. That match tonight was very good. The
It was.
ending was crazy. Talk about that.
The ending of the John Morrison Ricochet match was the coolest or most breathtaking, most awesome thing I've seen on Raw in quite some time. And we've seen lots of cool stuff, but this was something else. Ricochet did a springboard crossbody from the ropes all the way to Morrison, who was just kind of past the barricade, and Ricochet just got air. I mean, this was a beautiful sight, and he really just blew me away, and like he just. Everyone, from what I saw on Twitter and everything, everybody was blown away by this crazy spot, executed beautifully from Ricochet. Morrison caught him or whatever, did his part beautifully in that regard. This did end in a double count out, and I couldn't help but think, watching this, and I think I've said in the past, big fan of Ricochet. I've always wanted to see him do better, be booked better, enjoy more success than he's gotten. I've enjoyed seeing him more featured recently in the U.S. title scene, but now Sheamus is hurt, so now he's here. He's qualified for Money in the Bank. So, and on the flip side, John Morrison, Johnny Drip Drip, obviously a guy that I also think has deserved better than he's gotten. The Miz got hurt. I thought, okay, he deserves better. This is a chance. When the one that Miz got hurt, this is a chance for him to break out on his own. I didn't expect it in this way. I thought maybe he could really break out on his own, but instead he's doing what he's been doing alongside the Miz, but now on as a solo guy, although the Miz is still with him, so it is a weird kind of in between there. But I thought, like, when we got this tonight, they went out there, and I thought, okay, I'd like to see either of these guys win Money in the Bank if they're booked seriously. But I should say, before their match, Ricochet took the dripstick and like squirted the Miz with it, and I'm like, this is where we are, John.
I think it's interesting because I think it's easy to say that the Miz will play a role in some capacity at Money in the Bank. I don't think there's any doubt there. But we have a lot of key players in this match. I believe as of this, we have, is it 3 spots left now? One of which will be going to Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn, which leaves 2 spots open, which we assume will come from the SmackDown side, since Raw now has 4, SmackDown has 1. So looking at the match right now, it's filling in nicely. I didn't get my wish of Jeff Hardy being in the match, so now I'm going to flip to, I really hope that we get Shinsuke Nakamura in the match. I believe that would be very interesting to have Nakamura in there as, King Nakamura, things like that. But if we're looking at just the 5 competitors that are announced for the match, let's hypothetically say that it was going to be a 5-man Money in the Bank ladder match. I would probably pick John Morrison, I think, would be my pick of who I would want to win. I don't think he would, but that's who I think would be the most interesting, because there is that history with kind of them and the Miz had it there for a while, but I'm really banking on one of those 3 to be announced. I would love to see Sami Zayn win the briefcase. I think that would be very interesting. But we're a ways from that. The Ricochet Morrison match was very, very good tonight. I think that they both proved that they're worthy of this match. They can bring high spots to this match, sort of like what Kofi has done in the past, what Hardy has done in the past, something like that. I think very interesting that they're going to make that work. But the way they're building to Money in the Bank, I really like it right now. I think they're finally realizing that fans are coming back. It's time to kick it in gear. And that part of the show was very good from the beginning with the Battle Royal to the Morrison and Ricochet match, and then to the main event. Kind of those 3 lumps where we got men's Money in the Bank type build-up was very good tonight.
I thought that was pretty strong this week and last week as well. I think that's one thing I really enjoyed that we saw last week. There's the notable, I don't want to say effort, but to me, it's very seemingly easy when you've got, just these matches with stakes. Last week was the qualifiers. This week was the Battle Royale and the triple threat match. That helps the show feel more important. So I definitely agree with that. And I mean, I think that any number of people could win, deserve to win, would make an interesting winner. You mentioned Sami Zayn, John Morrison. Again, I can't shake the idea that Riddle actually feels kind of like the favorite at this point. Drew, unfortunately, I'm a little worried that they might go through with that.
They really could. They really could.
The only problem is we've gotten some comments saying, oh, they've got the loophole that like, okay, yeah, he can't challenge Lashley directly, but he could win the briefcase and, do something like that. But then you wonder, okay, he could cash it in on the SmackDown side of things. I don't see him cashing in on Roman. I mean, maybe that'd be a big match. We saw it last Survivor Series, but to actually have them kind of feud like that, that's something. Vernon Marqueta saying, Morrison could win. That could lead to him finally splitting up with The Miz. I like that idea. We got some comments. DJ Tessier or DJ wondering about King or Baron Corbin. There are a lot of options here, and I've said it before. That's why I really do enjoy Money in the Bank. It's unpredictable. It's hard to really just know, who really is the true favorite. It's all like the Royal Rumble. Some people like kind of seem like the favorite, but in a lot of ways, sometimes that's like a red herring. It's a very unpredictable time, and I like it a lot. It's hard, especially now. We do have those open slots over on SmackDown, so maybe by next week, we'll have an even clearer direction, so that'll be a little easier to see exactly how it will unfold. But no, I'm very excited to see, and with that, a great main event. I will say, even though Riddle lost like that, he looked great. He really continues to impress me. And I guess just to kind of a segue from that into other parts of Raw, even though it's still with that triple threat match, Riddle did lose. So what do you think that means for RK Bro? Because as I mentioned a minute ago, it feels like Randy Orton will probably be disappointed with that outcome, right? Riddle was fighting for him. Riddle lost. So now Randy Orton is not in Money in the Bank, and in a way, at least in the storyline, that's Riddle's fault. So I don't think that's necessarily a good thing for RK Bro in that sense. Do you think that will speed up a split, or do you think they'll kind of make up and keep going on?
It feels like to me we're kind of going in the direction where like Orton's gonna realize that Riddle's like fighting for him and like trying to show his dedication to him, which will finally lead Orton to be like, okay, whatever. But I think this ties directly into the fact that the Viking Raiders are number one contenders for the tag titles, and they've been for a month with no announcement as to when they're actually going to get their tag title match. So with AJ finally being kind of out of Money in the Bank, I kind of think they do this Money in the Bank tag match, at the pay-per-view for the titles. But I think it all depends on that. I still think we're at a SummerSlam tag match, and I think that we're going to get Orton and Riddle getting a run. No matter how long that may be, I think they will win the titles. It's just too hot. The crowd's going to love it. I just think they're going to give it a shot before they just kind of scrap it. So that's going to be interesting. But there's another part of the show I want to talk about that wasn't interesting, I didn't think. And people have been giving this crap for weeks now. The build that Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair have been getting has not been good. It's been no secret that it's been the same thing every week. For some reason, it's like they're trying to make Ripley a heel, even though Charlotte's clearly the heel. Like, what do you think about all this? Like, give me your thoughts.
Well, for context, John, tonight we got a 6-woman tag team match. It was Natalya, Tamina, and Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley, Dana Brooke, and Mandy Rose. There was not one single clear babyface in this match, let alone team, right? You mentioned with Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, very clearly Charlotte's a heel. Okay, so that's fine, right? But then we talk about it after Hell in a Cell. Kind of clear they're trying to make Rhea Ripley heelish. She won by disqualification, and she seemed happy about that. Not a very face thing to do. And now tonight she was teaming with Dana Brooke, Mandy Rose, two women who are very clearly like, I don't know, flaunting their looks over these two, the champions who are not necessarily baby faces, but
they're tweeners.
Yeah, and that's fine, right? It's fine. You have all the tweeners you want. Like that's cool. Cueva, sorry, saying they were all heels, and I would agree. Like there was no one to really cheer for in this match. And again, that's okay. But if you're gonna do that, you really need to like give me more. You need to really like build those that gray area. Maybe say, okay, this person is doing this, which isn't great, which is kind of heelish, but also this, right? And instead, it's more like who's the bigger heel, and I don't think that's necessarily the best recipe. Granted, I'll say an exception was Sasha Banks and Bayley last year, where Sasha Banks never really turned face. She was less of the heel because Bayley turned on her, and that was fine. But with this, like, it's hard to really feel invested because of that. With Charlotte and Ripley, you know, it was easy to see they're going to continue this feud. But I would hope that if they were going to do that, they'd make it more exciting. We didn't really get anything this week. They just had this tag team match, and now Money in the Bank is 3 weeks from Sunday, I believe. So
Yes, or yeah, 3 weeks. It was 3 weeks from yesterday. It's 3 weeks from yesterday.
Yeah. And Steven Chambers saying, "End the Rhea Charlotte feud, please," in all caps. And we're 3 weeks away from that. And I can't help but think, you know, depending on how the SummerSlam card shakes out, that we might get a third pay-per-view match there.
Well, I like this comment from Craig that says the Queen is going to. I honestly think there's a good chance that Charlotte wins at Money in the Bank because with fans back in the stands for a pay-per-view, I think they're going to have that one kind of big title change, like a big moment. I mean, obviously of the briefcases, but you have title matches too. And to me, the writing is on the wall for Charlotte to somehow win this. But then as far as SummerSlam, who knows? Becky Lynch has been rumored to be coming back. There's other people that have been rumored. Sasha Banks, we think, is coming back to SmackDown, but who knows? Yeah. So I think it's very interesting that this is not a for sure Rhea Ripley win. And even if she does lose, we could still get a rematch of SummerSlam. We've seen this before where somebody wins the belt and then it's a revenge tour at the next pay-per-view. So don't be surprised to see Charlotte win here. The build-up has been horrible. Just the story has been horrible. I just haven't liked it. The chemistry really hasn't necessarily been there. I'm more intrigued with the SmackDown Women's Division right now, even though they have less women. It's more intriguing to me than what we got on Raw. But there's more drama here than just Charlotte and Rhea because we have a whole nother branch of women's feud here with Alexa Bliss, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, and Reginald, even though he's not a girl. But this has been interesting because Alexa Bliss is I think she's clearly the favorite for the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match with the magic she can do and all that stuff. To me, I think she's going to win. But I want to get your thoughts on the Raw Women's Division as a whole with the Charlotte and Rhea thing. And then after you give your opinion on that, I want to get your opinion on the Alexa and Shayna thing, which is also still going on. Just give basically your state of the Raw Women's Division address. Go ahead.
Oh boy, no pressure. Well, you know, for me, Raw is weird, and it's weird. But for the Women's Division, it's interesting that you mentioned you find SmackDown more interesting when it only has 7 women on the roster there. I will say, you know, I think we were talking about a while ago where, you know, there was all the narrative about John Laurinaitis coming back and the supposed regression for the women's division, and I think there's there still might be some concern there. But Raw tonight had 3 distinct women's matches that they were meaningful. They got time. They were not throwaway matches by any means. You have Alexa Bliss doing meaningful things. You've got superhero Nikki Cross with this new character. Clearly, she's getting featured now. And obviously with Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair. Granted, that's not great, but it's this featured story.
Even Asuka and Naomi are being featured now. Yeah, I mean, Asuka always was, but Naomi especially.
And that's great for her. I know I'm happy to see that. So you have that going on. You've got Eva Marie now. All these things, like, you know, there's stuff to like, and I do enjoy the fact that we are getting these kind of 3, call it branches, in a way. And it's not
absolutely.
It's not perfect by any means. And for me, I guess I might I love SmackDown, but I might disagree about that because just, you know, Bayley just keeps challenging for the title, and that's kind of still going on. And I don't know, in a way, I guess I'm more interested in Ripley and Flair only because it's more unpredictable, where in the sense that, like, you don't know what's going to happen. Is I don't see Bayley beating Belair, and at least, you know, as unclear as Ripley and Flair is, at least that's some intrigue. It's like, okay, I don't know who I'm supposed to cheer for, so here's hoping that they give me something. So I think the Raw Women's division doesn't get enough credit for that reason. As you just said, we are seeing now Naomi getting pushed more. Now Piper Niven came in, and or I should say Dewdrop, if you will, and she pinned Asuka tonight. And you can say, wow, that's really bad for Asuka. Fine, yeah, it is, but that's good for Piper Niven because she's very clearly she's arrived on Raw, and they are clearly pushing her as this legitimate force, and you know, and obviously, yeah, it's fair to criticize how that's gone down with Eva Marie, but as we've been saying, I think I talked about it a little last week, and then you and I talked about it the very first week. That's a good place for her to be in. Like Eva Marie is going to get that great heat when the live fans come back, and that is a very clear, I'll say, vehicle for success for whoever is next to her. Because like very clearly, even if we are accelerating this timeline where Piper is probably going to turn on her pretty soon, based on what we're seeing, that's still a good position for her to be in. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they're setting this up so when fans return, which I doubt she's going to keep the name Dewdrop after she turns on Eva Marie, but it's interesting that they went as far as copywriting and trademarking the name itself, because you would think that they have plans to use it long term then, but I do think she'll turn on Eva Marie fairly shortly after fans come back, which will make Eva Marie actually need to probably wrestle more on her own and be a monster heel. And then you got Nikki Ash, almost superhero, um, who's clearly being featured more. Hey, uh, fans are hypocrites in one way, and what I mean by that is, and not all of them, but most of them hated the fact that she was going to be a superhero. But then when they heard, oh wait, this was her idea, all of a sudden it was okay. Although some people are still not convinced it was actually her idea. They think that they're just saying that to make it look better. I think that it was actually probably her idea. They've been working on this for a while. She's happy. I mean, when you like and you really are trying to make the character that you're playing work, it'll work. Alexa Bliss is making it work. Nikki Cross so far is making it work. They had some tweaks from the first week to the second week. The graphics were different. She didn't have the face paint on. Some stuff like that was changed. But the women's Money in the Bank to me every year is always the most unpredictable match because there's never really a really strong favorite women in this match. When Carmella won, nobody expected. Well, shall I say, when James Ellsworth won, nobody expected that. And then when Carmella won afterwards, nobody expected that. When Asuka won, okay, people might have expected that, but nobody expected it was going to be for the title. I mean, because of Becky's situation. So I think it's interesting. The women's Money in the Bank match is always interesting because it gives you an idea who they're going to push. To me, even though Liv Morgan's not in the match yet, I think Liv Morgan will probably win this match if not Alexa Bliss, because I still think Alexa Bliss is probably going to win. But I just think the way they're building the women's division for Money in the Bank is very unpredictable and pretty good. Do you have any last thoughts on that?
I would agree. I like the idea of Alexa Bliss winning again, kind of in a maybe a little different than Ricochet and John Morrison. I just want to see it really positioned in a more serious sense of like this is someone who had been in the title contention. She I think she beat Asuka way back in January, and she almost beat her for the title, and then Randy cost her that match. But ever since then, it's been a little hit or miss. She's beaten Shayna Baszler in recent weeks, and she's kind of getting back on track in that sense. So I'd like to see that. Liv Morgan's a great option. I think that she's got a lot of potential that they haven't really given her a fair shake in a lot of ways. Now that unfortunately she's the last Riot Squad member standing, they kind of almost have to see what they've got with her. So I like that option as well. And I would agree with DJ here saying that they should put Shayna Baszler in Money in the Bank, but her booking has been so atrocious lately. Unfortunately, I don't see that happening. I think DJ commented earlier wondering about Natalya and Tamina qualifying. Potentially, I might more expect them to defend the tag titles at Money in the Bank.
Pre-show match.
Yeah, if one of the granted, you can talk about the depth of the women's division. I could see them feeling like they kind of have to, have Natalya Tamina in there, but at the same time, they do have Liv Morgan. They've got, they could even give Eva Marie a spot. I could see that, the SmackDown side of things is pretty, not bad
There
depth there.
are what? So there are 3 women's spots left. We have already got Naomi. We've got Asuka. We've got
Bliss, Cross,
Carmella.
and Carmella, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's 5. And then Liv Morgan, we can assume, will be 6. So
Yeah.
that leaves 2 spots open for we think would be SmackDown. But SmackDown doesn't really have a lot of women left. I mean, you would have to include either Tamina or Natalia if you were going to have another SmackDown person in it.
Yeah, because they
So
are technically on
interesting
SmackDown.
there.
So yeah,
We'll see what they.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I mean, I could see this happening. Nestor Kirsch saying that I expect Eva Marie to be in and win Money in the Bank. I mean, you could definitely see that the reaction that would get, capitalizing on the live fans being back. And maybe she'd make, as we're getting some comments here, that Eva could like qualify, but then make Piper or Doudrop compete for her. Maybe somebody said for that.
And here's another interesting part about Money in the Bank. In the past, ever since the Money in the Bank has been introduced as a women's match, the pay-per-view, 2 out of the 3 times this match has opened the show of Money in the Bank. So this very well could be the first pay-per-view with live fans, and the women's Money in the Bank is opening the show. You're going to get a good reaction from the crowd then. I mean, so you want to put on something that's going to be interesting. I think whatever happens, I think it's hard to go wrong with women's Money in the Bank. It's hard to pick somebody that shouldn't win. If you pick Naomi, okay, great. People are going to like that. People might complain if Asuka were to win it again because like she doesn't really need it. So I get the case there. But it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and I like that you said it's usually one of the more unpredictable matches, and I would definitely agree. And just like the men's side of things, we can't really predict too much until the field's entirely set.
I mean, Otis won last year, and he was literally the least favored in the betting odds.
Yeah, so anything can happen, and that's why I really do enjoy Money in the Bank. There could be a surprise entrant. JM mentioning Becky Lynch or Sasha Banks. Possible,
Brock Lesnar 2 years ago wasn't an entrant in the match, and he won.
Right. So, I'm looking forward to it. I could definitely see them having kind of a card up their sleeve like that. So, even when the announced participants are complete, I think anything could happen in that sense.
I was just gonna say that's always something that you can do is say that the last entrant is a mystery entrant. We won't reveal it till the pay-per-view. Perfect.
Yeah. AEW does all the time. They've got they usually do it for what? The Casino Battle Royal, the Joker, and stuff like that. So that happens, it happens all the time. So I could definitely see that, especially, granted, WWE doesn't do that a lot, but for Money in the Bank, this first pay-per-view back with live fans again, I could definitely see that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with that. Something that I was not really looking forward to tonight, but we got anyway, was a strap match between Jaxson Ryker and Elias. Man, there was a segment on tonight when Jaxson Ryker was standing backstage whipping himself with the strap, and R-Truth comes up. And granted, I'm not the person really qualified to talk about this, but I think anybody could tell you this was a very weird segment, in a couple ways. So Jaxson Ryker was talking to R-Truth when he had a strap in his hand. Yikes. And then we got the strap match between Ryker and Elias. Now, granted, that makes some sense. Elias has gotten counted out twice when he's faced Ryker. I tweeted like right when the match started, like, here's hoping we'll get a plot twist and Elias will beat Ryker and we can move past all this. No, they're very clearly committed to Ryker and this face push. He was wearing like offbeat Hulkamania tights tonight. I don't know. And Elias got new theme music that he doesn't even sing.
Horrible.
Oh man, I don't know what's going on.
I was not a fan of this. Jaxson Ryker as a babyface likely won't work, although he's winning. I don't get the point of this. Elias continues to look horrible. He loses. He's not even doing his guitar segments anymore. Elias gives me the vibes of like somebody that's about to go to like main event or wherever, but it does. The way that they've been treating him does not give me the long-term success on Raw or SmackDown vibes.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. There have been plenty of times where I see Elias competing, and I think there may have been back in January already, but the first time he faced AJ Styles on Raw earlier this year, I was very impressed. I thought it looked great, and I thought, okay, this guy, doesn't always get a fair shake. People kind of, judge him or whatever. He has this like negative association just based on his previous booking, but I think he's underrated in some ways. There's maybe even some comparisons with King Corbin there. But then again, just some of the, it's all as Luke Goddard would say, it's all about the booking, and his booking's just
Yeah.
been pretty rough. So yeah, he lost here, and yeah, it's good for Ryker, and maybe for the next. I don't know. I could see them really trying for the summer, but I think John, you and I have talked about it. Don't see the live crowds really digging this, so maybe they'll keep trying for the first couple of weeks, month or two, but
I
beyond
mean, I
that,
could I could see him being a successful babyface, maybe like on main event to wrestle somebody like a Shelton Benjamin or a heel Cedric Alexander, like a low tier babyface, kind of like Ricochet was for months. Now he's finally going to be in the main event of a pay per view. We assume will be the main event of the pay per view, and that is very interesting. Elias, I really do like this comment from DJ. Elias will go to NXT. I wish he would go back to NXT. He wasn't successful in NXT the first time. His gimmick doesn't work in NXT because it thrives with an audience. He's a promo person. He gets monster heat when he works with a crowd. Remember in Seattle, whenever he crapped on them not having a basketball team, and they booed him for 3 minutes nonstop, really loud. So I think he needs to go to SmackDown again. He's kind of one of those guys that always goes to the opposite brain in a draft. He was at Raw, then SmackDown,
yeah.
then he was at Raw. He went back to SmackDown, and then he came back to Raw. So he flipped like 4 times.
Yeah, I could see it. He's one of those guys that, you know, it, at the very least, good character work and, a good way to, if at this point as a heel, if he gets signed over to SmackDown, just a good guy for the baby faces to beat up for a little bit. I do like the idea of him going back to NXT. I think that could be something. But at the same time, he does feel like one of those guys where they just value him too much on the main roster for that reason. Just an easy guy for the baby faces to pick up wins over, like we saw tonight. And for Jaxson Ryker, Steven Chambers saying that he wonders like where Jaxson Ryker is going to go from here. I mean, he'd be a good opponent for Sheamus. Ryker had tweeted, I think already 2 weeks ago, that he wants to challenge for the U.S. title. He is, and they're clearly leaning on that veteran
Oh
background of
boy,
his.
yeah.
So I could see it. I don't know. I could see them at least trying that with live fans returning. As maybe kind of just I don't know, a trial run and seeing like if that works, because worst case doesn't work, he could lose to Sheamus and then call it a day. Yeah, I don't know. For me it's not really working, and I'm not even talking about the all the stuff behind the scenes surrounding him. More just even in the ring, I don't like he's got a great look. But it's not really doing it for me, and that does kind of seem to be the general feel of things here. So I'd like to be wrong. I'd like this to, pick up from here, and for me to say, oh, okay, maybe they've got something. But so far, not really doing it. I thought the strap match was fine for the match itself, but I had a feeling Ryker would win, and I don't necessarily see it. Really going somewhere long term. Like, even like I said, maybe they'll try for the summer, but if it's not really working, they might pull the plug, because like I said, I just don't think the live fans can be into it. Something else I don't really see the crowd being into, but it remains to be a thing. The 24/7 title is alive and well here on Raw. Changed hands 3 times tonight. It was during the Battle Royal at the beginning of the show. Honestly, I forgot that Akira Tozawa was the champion. Drew Gulak pinned him. R-Truth pinned Gulak, and then Akira Tozawa pinned Truth to get it back. So Truth won the title for the 52nd time, which is crazy. And I believe I saw this was Akira Tozawa's 10th win for the title. So I'm honestly very surprised the 24/7 is still going. I wish that they would do more with it. I wish we got more than this. And back in the day, we got the Drake Maverick in a hotel room. We got R-Truth pinning people on golf courses and on planes. And now we're here with meaningless pins in a battle royale. And I will say, even though it was only for a minute, when they had the minute of just pins during the Battle Royale, it took the attention away from the Battle Royale. Like, we're supposed to be really invested in this Battle Royale. Who's going to replace Randy Orton? You got the people in there really like going out trying to win the spot for the main event match, and then they're literally just focusing on the shenanigans at ringside. I don't know. And the fact that the same three guys have been in the mix here for quite a while now. Granted, it's good to see R-Truth back on Raw. He's been kind of inactive on the show for a little while. I know he's been hosting Raw Talk, but for the main show itself, that is fair. And that's true for Gulak, true for Akira Tozawa. But it's, to me, it's a little weird that we're getting more of the same here, and they're not really doing anything to really shake it up. But Neshkura saying she loved the Battle Royale, I like seeing Truth back, and the 24/7 title being back. I know it's fun, but like it's just, we're still seeing more of the same, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no really. This has been like our Raw thing. Like I don't ever remember this really being on SmackDown. This has always been like Raw, Rick Boogs, Old Spice, stuff like that. It's entertaining, like like the comments were saying, but I don't know. It's all right. Talk about the last thing of the show that we haven't discussed yet, which I thought was also all right, even a little bit more than all right. We had a face-off between Kofi Kingston and MVP in the ring. MVP also getting new theme song that he didn't need. No Lashley tonight, which that was fine. These two have delivered very good back and forth promos for a month now. Tonight, no different. Kofi basically saying, don't mess with my brothers. I know what it's like to take your eyes off the prize and lose it, referring to Brock Lesnar beating him in 8 seconds. MVP saying, well, you're not going to get it. I think we all know that Lashley's probably going to win this at Money in the Bank. But what have you thought about this build-up that we've been seeing?
I like this a lot. Yeah, I really don't see Kingston winning, but I think they're telling him a really good story where it's like MVP has said, it's ironically some of the best promos have been like on the bump and things like that. They aren't even on the main show, but things like YouTube exclusives or whatever, where MVP is saying that Kingston doesn't have what it takes anymore, that he's a clown, and that he's like let his like you said, let his eye off the ball in that sense. I like the reference of Lesnar beating Kingston. Obviously, I like when they tie in that real history. And then Kingston, one of the lines he said tonight was that Lashley looks more beatable than ever, and that's true. And to me, that's part of the problem, that he hasn't been dominant. That he's just, he barely beat Drew at Hell in a Cell. So,
Are you still convinced at this point that we're going to get Lashley versus Lesnar at SummerSlam, or do you think we're going in a different direction? And if you do think we're going to get Lesnar and Lashley, do you think he kind of plays a role in their Money in the Bank match?
In some ways, I would be surprised if Lesnar returned for SummerSlam, if only because I almost feel like that would load up the show too much. Where especially if you're banking on Becky Lynch, probably Sasha Banks, some Cena for the SmackDown side of things, Edge on SmackDown, possibly on the SmackDown side of things. It's almost not that it'd be a waste, because then if you load it up like that, it will be this huge, great show. But at the same time, like, I don't know, maybe you want to space that a little bit, maybe save that for maybe Survivor Series or something. I don't really know. But I think you and I have talked about it, like the continuing buzz that, okay, John Cena's probably going to come back. He'll be on the SmackDown side of things. Where does that leave Raw? Raw needs something big for the summer season, for SummerSlam itself. And without Brock Lesnar, I don't know who that would be. Like, especially if I'm trying to think for SummerSlam. I think we tried thinking of options 2 weeks ago now, but Randy Orton, maybe. They could maybe build up Riddle pretty quickly. Obviously, we don't want to see Drew again. A couple dark horse contenders like Damian Priest, like a John Morrison even, but there's no real clear, like, obviously no one on the John Cena or Brock Lesnar level like that, so I don't know what the plan B would be. So I think I would like to see Brock Lesnar for that reason, but again, I can't sit here and say, okay, that's definitely happening, or that's even really, the rumor at this point. It's like the rumors that they're talking about his return, but that doesn't mean for SummerSlam. So I don't know. I mean, and if he did return, I think I would be excited because it would be something different for Raw at this point rather than more of Drew McIntyre and things. But I don't know. It's tough because, like, yeah, if Cena comes back and Raw doesn't get something even at a similar level, I think it'd be very hard for anything to be at that level of a John Cena return. But Raw will feel lacking in that sense if they don't get something like that. So that will, to me, that's one potential downside of having a John Cena return as this big thing for SmackDown. If Raw doesn't, that kind of reflects poorly on Raw. So I am curious to see if we don't get Brock Lesnar, what they do, because they do. Obviously, it's fair to argue, and the reports have suggested they want to make SummerSlam as big, if not bigger, than WrestleMania. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens there. Regardless, of wait and see. One last little thing. We've got a couple of comments on it. We did see a little more development with Mansoor and Mustafa Ali tonight. It was during the Battle Royale. Mustafa Ali tossed out Mansoor during the Battle Royale, basically saying, "Hey, like you can't trust anybody." That's been the whole kind of point of their. Again, it's been a weird like feud /
mentorship.
Like it's like fun like. We were talking about gray areas earlier. This has been a good example of like not a clear like partnership or feud, but they've been like kind of, Ali's been giving him advice. Now he's talking about the Battle Royale. DJ commented earlier asking what we thought about his Twitter promo. I did not see that yet. I guess he had an online exclusive promo. Unfortunately, I have not watched that yet because we've been doing the show. That's ironically like sometimes they put the most interesting stuff on the digital exclusive side of things, and especially here, like I haven't gotten a chance to watch that yet, so I'm not quite sure what he said. I guess I don't know. I think it'd be more beneficial if you had them team first and then feud. Although I don't necessarily want them to do that with RK Bro and this team at the same time. So I don't know, John. What do you think of this? Partnership or feud at this point?
I'd like to see them eventually end up as a team somehow. I think Raw could benefit from having them as a team. They could each benefit each other as a team because they'd be more relevant. I don't see the benefit of them feuding because it would just be a lower mid-card main event type thing. I think they should just be a team to be more relevant on the show.
At least for tonight, that I think that would be beneficial where, they could feud later on, but I think the Raw Tag Team Division needs it, and I think that will be good. Like you said, we've got AJ Styles and Omos versus Viking Raiders coming at some point, maybe Money in the Bank, but beyond that, and RK Bro, not too much depth beyond that. So I think that'd be beneficial, and just it was a fairly minor thing tonight, but I'm glad that was part of the Battle Royale because it added a little more significance to it. So all that being said, John, scale of 1 to 10, what do you think about tonight's show?
We're gonna go with a 7 out of 10 tonight.
Why not higher? Why not lower?
I thought the matches were really good. The promos were pretty good. Why not higher? Drew McIntyre winning that main event left a sour taste in my mouth. I was hoping to give someone an opportunity like Damian Priest, Jeff Hardy, and why not lower? Just because the matches were pretty good and a lot better than they've been.
Yeah, Stephen Chambers was a 6, Nash Chris was an 8.5, JM with a 7.25, noting Morrison and Ricochet having a good match there, 7.25 for him. I think I'll go for a 7. I think for very similar reasons. Good matches, very good main event. Did not like McIntyre pinning Riddle like that. DJ with a 4. So, maybe a step back after what was a fairly good show last week. So maybe that is a factor here as well, where I got my hopes up that tonight would be pretty good for Raw, and instead it was, middle of the road. I like what they're doing with Kofi and MVP and Lashley here. I think that's a nice direction. That I like how they're going with that. Like I said, I really enjoy Money in the Bank. I think it's a fun time and it's very unpredictable. We talked about it. The women's division, three notable matches tonight, all of them meaningful in different ways. So I like that. Nando with a seemingly good 6.8. I like that. It was not a bad show. for me, this was my first 3-hour show in a little over a week. So, maybe that weighed on me as well. But good matches. Some things that I obviously didn't care for, but with Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley, all that stuff. Not a bad show. I think, yet again, we are on the very home stretch of live fans coming back. So we're almost there. Just got to get a little farther. And then I really do hope, even maybe naively, that things will be better on the other side of that. So we're almost there. And I am looking forward to that. In the meantime, and even once that does happen, but regardless, whether they're live fans of the shows or not, we'll be here at WrestleZone every week. Obviously, like I said last week, a little off schedule, but we're back on track here. John, you and I are here for Monday, obviously for the Monday Night Raw show. We'll be back here on Tuesday night for the NXT post show. The Dynamite Dudes of Attitude, Marcus and Dominic, cover AEW, and they also do WCW Written for Fun Fantasy Booking. Robert DeFelice and I will be back on Friday for the SmackDown post show. And obviously a great stream of interviews coming to you guys. Bill Pritchard recently interviewed Alexander Wolf. He's interviewed Eric Rowan, Fred Rosser, many people. Make sure to check all that out and more on our Facebook, on our YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, whatever maybe we've got you covered. So leave a like and subscribe. We appreciate you. And no matter what.
Check
yes,
out
John,
those
Universal rankings. We haven't mentioned those at all tonight.
Yes, check out the Universal rankings on WrestleZone.com. They come out every Monday. Interesting things coming up with them. We have some new things in the works as well to extend some features off of the top 25 there. But be sure to take a look. We have Edge back in the rankings this week. And of course, just a quick rundown of some of the Raw people we saw tonight. Bobby Lashley holding his own there at number 2 on the list. And then, of course, we have Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair, very strong performances themselves in the top 10. And further down the list, we got Ricochet making his way into the list for the first time ever. And Nikki Cross is also holding strong on there as well. So be sure to take a look.
John's doing great stuff with that. Make sure to check that out. Obviously, looking forward to those new things he mentioned as well. There are obviously all these things and more available on WrestleZone.com. And as I mentioned, the audiovisual side on all of our platforms there as well, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, whatever it may be. We've got you covered. So leave a like and subscribe. John, no matter what, no matter if it's a good episode of Raw or a bad one, if they're live fans or not, we do one thing above all others. And can you tell me what that is?
Enjoy wrestling.
Indeed. Thanks for listening, everybody.